Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are tonight's entertainment.
What the
That's
hell?
right, of course. That's right, of course. This is the only podcast that has whatever that spinny thing is going on behind Matt there. That's because this is Two Noobs Talking, and we have reached episode 129 somehow without killing each other. That's because we are all friends here. I am, of course, talking about the Moonchild, Matt Craig, the journeyman, John Tracy. I am merely Steve Murray. I'm in the middle today. Why am I in the middle? Why am I introducing topics? Why am I talking? Why do I do anything it is that I do? The world may never know, and I intend to keep it that way. But enough from Waldorf. Let's get to the boys. The chair recognizes the esteemed gentleman from Texas. Mr. John, how you doing today?
Oh, hello, Steve. How are you?
I'm well. That was very underwhelming. Mr. Craig out in KOP. What's the 49411?
Well, I have a couple questions. One, why am I over on the right side? Like, this is weird. I'm like kind of like up against it. Like, I don't have much room. And two, what the hell? Are you taking over the hosting duties? What the hell is going on around here?
Cue the NWO music. No.
Oh, man.
I don't know. This was your idea, man.
This was my idea. That's
Edit
right. Yeah.
NWO Muse. Got it.
John's making post-production notes. We're all
There you
good.
go.
We are
Love it.
all good.
Yeah.
Well, of course, as we always like to do here on the Two Noobs Talking podcast, we've got our introductory segment where we just throw out just random shit.
Yeah, pretty much.
And I guess we'll start, as we always do, with John and his fun fact. The fun fact, of course, is brought to us by Dubby Energy Drinks. Visit dubby.gg. That's dubby.gg. Enter the promo code Two Noobs Talking, TOO Noobs Talking, and you'll get 10% off your order. Matt, what's the flavor of the month? Or
I think it's still blue raspberry, Steve.
ooh, blue
It's
raspberry.
still like, yeah. So
Matches
every
the
time
shit.
every time I want to, like, I say it, it's like, man, I really want to try it. I don't know. Maybe I'll give it a go here. Who
Use the
knows?
promo code, man. And as
Hell
you can
yeah.
see, I've done zero research for this role today.
And
Love it.
apparently there's no crash. So if you try it, it's not going to be like caffeine.
There you go.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks to Dubby, John will give us a fun fact. John, what do you got?
Well, I got two for you. Because
Ooh,
one
bonus.
leads into the other. So we all or did not celebrate St. Patrick's Day yesterday.
I did.
How did you know?
I did not. Two
Okay.
Noobs did, but it got shot down on Facebook. But that's another story for another time. So I did. I wanted to do a little research because I don't know anything about St. Patrick's Day and why it actually happens. Because who cares? We're America. We don't care about this. So I found this website that was like the real facts of St. Patrick's Day, and I'm like, oh, this is gonna be great. I'm gonna love this one. So I've got a list of two here they're quite funny to me. So the real St. Patrick was not born in Ireland. He was born in Britain.
Huh.
He
Well,
got
that might
to
be a
Ireland.
problem.
He got to Ireland by the slave trade. He was actually a slave.
Oh.
So
God.
yeah, so that is how he got to Ireland. Which
Oh,
I was
my.
like, well, no wonder you don't tell children that. That's, Now the other one of these lying sons of bitches. There were no snakes in Ireland in the time.
I think I knew that.
Yeah, research was done many years ago. They couldn't find any snake fossils, and they're not sure through many other studies. They're not sure that the island ever had there
Really?
might have never been able to happen because it's an island. And they're not going to like swim across and be like, "Hey, we're here now." Like, so they're scientifically there were no snakes on that island, at least at that time. But they're actually the study is going into there might have never been.
Fascinating. Huh. Interesting.
And are there snakes now?
No.
Yeah.
Huh.
Well, I'm sure they've imported them, but I'm not natively. No, there's no snakes.
Interesting. Wow.
Sure, they brought some in eventually.
Makes me want to move over there. You never know, but yeah.
Are you attacked frequently by snakes over there in King of
Not
Prussia?
attacked, but deathly afraid of them.
Yo, me
Deathly
too. Oh no, me too. I can't even. I can't even look at them.
Yeah,
I don't like them.
The way they like that. It's like, are you kidding me?
You don't got legs. You scared the shit out of me if you don't got legs.
It occurs to me, Matt, that we never fact check our fact bringer on this.
Ever.
So maybe we have to take all this with a grain of salt. We'll have to see.
Please do.
I think I knew about the snakes, though.
Interesting.
All right, so that is the fun fact, and surprise, surprise, since I'm hosting today, Matt gets to do the over 40 rant, and I guess he qualifies as over 40. So,
well, yeah.
What do you got for us?
7.
Yeah. You wish, pal.
Yeah, exactly. U.S. education system. What the hell? To be perfectly honest with you guys, I was distressed. Well, maybe not distressed, but just laughing hysterically inside when I read that some kid in Utah complained that her one school teacher, science teacher, said that we should all eat bugs from now on because it helps saves cows farting and polluting the environment. And that was the only answer she was allowed to give on the assignment. And the 6th grader was like, you know what? I as much as I like to eat grasshoppers, no, I don't want to do this. I think it's disgusting to eat bugs and all that kind of stuff. Never mind all the parasites and things.
I concur.
And I was kind of hunting around a little bit and saw that, we had a judge in Stanford University kind of just getting raked over the coals by DEIB councils over there and all this other nonsense. It just continues to get worse and worse in the education system. And especially like in our high scores, are the best ones we've got are in the mid-20s for reading, writing, and arithmetic. And especially in the sciences is also pretty low as well. Math, I think we were like I think we were in the high 30s. That's like inexcusable.
You mean like in ranking, like
world
30th,
rankings,
30th. Okay,
yeah, we're like 30th place, and that's unacceptable to me, and that's like awful. And so I think my rant is I think we ought to stop having our kids trying to eat bugs, and we should just teach them the basics. This over 40 rant brought to you by Craig Matthews. That's it.
I completely agree, man.
Absolutely.
It just drives me crazy. I don't know what it is. I was just like, we have to have these kids eating grasshoppers and ants and bugs because it protects the environment. Really? You realize where bugs like walk on, right? Feces and manure and bacteria, and it's like we're gonna feed and
Matt, we're gonna wash them first. Come on, we're not barbarians here. We wash our bugs before we eat them.
Okay.
Especially America, we're gonna throw a little cornstarch on them, fry them up. We're not just gonna eat them off the ground, Matt. Come on.
Well, I mean, as much as I would love to have a plate of grasshoppers over at Davio's, guys, I don't think I'm gonna easily get a.
You deep fry those things, man. That heat will kill anything. You're good.
Okay,
you're absolutely right with the school day. We need reform.
Yeah,
and it's clear. I mean, the federal government's in charge of the education system, so I mean, just look over there. We can see why it's not this bad. They can't identify what a woman is. How are they ever going to teach children?
Yeah,
we need reform on the federal level. If we can bring it back to basics.
Please.
I've heard of debates. Oh, we got to put God back in school. That's not what I'm talking about. Like, I'd be okay with that personally. For my beliefs, I would be glad if you would bring but that's not where I want to bring the argument. We need to go back, like you said, reading, writing, arithmetic. They need to learn skills. Me and my wife talk about this all the time. They need to learn how to sew. They need to learn how to balance a checkbook. They need to learn how to do these basics so when they go to college, which we're hoping most children do out of high school, they can survive. Instead of what we see nowadays, we see a lot of dependency back on parents because they're trying to teach you about climate change when you don't even understand how to open a bank account.
Yeah. Well, never mind college, just living life. You need to learn math because you got to pay for stuff. You got to get paid for stuff. That's all numbers. You got to know how to read because everything out there is in writing. You have to know how to write so people don't think you're a dumbass when you talk. Right?
Exactly.
So those are the most critical, important things you need to learn. And I agree with both of you. We're failing at it. Although my kids got straight A's first half of the year. So
why am I not surprised? I mean, that's not a shocker. But I mean, and really to kind of just hammer this home, it's really just, and there are really good teachers out there. I can remember my high school had a terrific English teacher, guys, that really taught me how to write everything down well and to present my arguments well, in particular when it came to a report. And that goal and that system basically allowed me to continue to articulate thoughts going forward. If it wasn't for her, I don't know what I would be doing, really. And I give thanks for that. But when I see it now, it's like, I don't even know where these high schools are even going. Like, they are directionless. And the teachers now are just like, they're filling a quota. That's all they're doing. And it's like, okay, next person. There's no attention to detail. There's no... And then on top of that, it's like they get homework on top of that. And I always hated homework when I was in high school, and I always hated it. I did, because it's like, you're learning there. You should learn and then walk away and then get a break. Why do you have to have an additional 2 hours to finish everything that was talked about in the class? Doesn't make any sense to me. But yeah, I mean, that's a few of my reforms. More than anything else. Get
Matt's
rid of
going
the teachers
for the school life balance is what he's going for.
It's the circle of life, Johnny.
Well, you need school life. You need school life balance to learn about work life balance.
Yes,
you sure do. Yeah. Oh boy.
All right. Well, speaking of science, why don't we? I'll use a term that Matt would use if he were here. Why don't we dive right into topic one? Oh, there you are, Matt. I forgot you were here. Sorry. Topic one. We got a Yahoo article that originally was published in The Telegraph. Scientists dismissed COVID lab leak theory as they feared ban on high-risk experiments.
Dun, dun, dun.
So the article says scientists dismissed the COVID-19 lab leak theory because they wanted to continue doing dangerous gain-of-function experiments to make viruses more deadly, a University of Oxford scholar has claimed. That scholar, Anton van der Merwe, professor of molecular immunology, said scientists involved in similar work as the Wuhan Institute of Virology, the lab that implicated in the lab leak, were worried that a ban would be reimposed on such testing. Professor van der Merwe believes that scientists had used articles in The Lancet and Nature Medicine to create a false impression that a natural spillover origin was scientific consensus. Writing in the letters page of the Financial Times, he says the conflict arises from the fact that researchers perform and want to continue to perform precisely the sorts of experiment that make a laboratory leak much more likely. It is argued that these gain-of-function experiments could help us identify potentially dangerous organisms in the wild and so prevent a pandemic. But what is more likely is these organisms will infect those doing the experiments who could unwittingly spread the virus to the community and possibly the whole world.
Hmm.
Professor Vandermerve said there was little justification for doing such experiments except scientific curiosity and the desire for prestige. Now, Matt, even before I joined, gain of function was something you guys touched on quite a bit in the original Too Noobs talking. What are your thoughts on this revelation here?
Yeah, I guess it's not a surprise, I guess, for me. To be perfectly honest, gain of function has always been a very, let's just say, hot topic in the American society and in world society. It is highly controversial. It is something I think that unless you are a really solid, like you're really solid in molecular biology, you don't even touch with a 10-foot clown pole. I mean, honest to God, this is very, very dangerous type of experiments more than anything else. And I sincerely do believe it more and more every day that the COVID virus that came out was a gain of function research that escaped from that lab and that got spread inside of Wuhan. That was always my thought. It would be really strange that a bat could be the circumstance, like the one identifying bat in this Wuhan wet market spread an entire pandemic from this. I don't know about that. I'm not quite sure.
I don't know that that's an untrue possibility. I think that's it's perfectly, because I think we've got evidence that's happened before. I mean, go all the way back to the Black Death in Europe. There's rats carrying plague. It's not,
no question,
and the rats got it from the fleas. So it's not unusual for an animal to spread virus to the human. But I think the issue was more that the people who suggested that this could have come from a lab were kind of shot down by not only social media, who have no business telling us what's right or wrong scientifically, but apparently from the scientists themselves.
I mean, you guys know that it's basically scientific method. You investigate everything, right? I mean, that's what the scientific method is supposed to do. And you're right, Steve. I mean, our social media friends, the Mark Zuckerbergs of the world, basically decided, okay, this is the talking point that we're going to go with, and anybody else deviating from said talking point, well, they're a nut job, wacko, conspiracy theorists, they hate Dr. Tony Fauci and others. It was, in that regard.
Oh, he's Tony now? Is that what we're going with?
He's Tony now.
Tony. My name is Tony. You Dr. Tony. It's all good. It came from a lab. I didn't say that. It was natural.
Yeah.
So the article then goes on to quote Bob Seeley, the conservative MP for the Isle of Wight, who said in his view that the conduct of some scientists during the pandemic had been breathtakingly unethical. It's pathetic, he told the Telegraph. You have this unholy and unethical alliance. That's sounds like a video game.
Strong. Yeah.
Of scientists working together through highly influential publications effectively to kibosh what may be a scientific truth and get it pushed into the realms of scientific theory. We need to be asking tough questions about the origins. Otherwise, who knows what virus will be released next through incompetence and ambition, and how many more millions it will be killing. John, your thoughts on this? Because I know you were also you coined the phrase early on. It's not the virus; it's the corruption behind the virus.
Yes,
this sounds a lot like that, doesn't it?
Single greatest quote ever in the history of this podcast, right there.
I would like to say to said gentleman that you just quoted, no shit, Sherlock. They were all in cahoots. Gee, you protect your own? Of course they were. Yes, it was. It's very, very, very unethical what they did, pushing But how are you? You're not going to survive in that realm of highly dangerous area if you're not sticking together, because the government will shut you down immediately as soon as they find out. So you don't want to. I don't blame them. I blame the Facebooks and the media that were like, yeah, what they said. Yeah, we knew they were corrupt immediately. That's what they were supposed to do. That's what you're supposed to do. I don't blame them. It was it's a lab leak. Cover that lab leak up because you don't want to get shut down. You don't want China going, what are you guys doing over there? You know what I mean? Like, what exactly are you guys doing over there? You don't want that.
I think what was also very distressing, and I think we touched on this earlier. It was literally one theory or one thought process. This did not come. Well, those raise any kinds of red flags, gentlemen, I think.
In science, yes.
Absolutely. It literally is like, okay, well, then you better damn well back up everything that what you have said. If this definitely came from this, show me the data. What are you afraid of? And that never happened. That never took place. No. And that's why there was so much blowback and pushback on everything that was happening with Fauci and Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. But others, it's just like, you got to prove it. You have to say, if you say something, back it up with it. You can't just say, oh, it's the gospel according to Mark Zuckerberg. Well, that's great. Thank you.
You hit the nail on the head right there, because I think people forget, there are lots of people out there who aren't scientists.
And that's okay.
And that's okay. And they're not going to understand, the advanced levels of things that go on in places like labs. But you can't just, because someone is a scientist, because they have a PhD, because they have a title you can't pronounce, you can't just take their word for it. Well, it didn't come from a lab because I said so. Right? You have to recognize that scientists are people who are going to have inherent biases, like protecting their work because they don't want to get shut down, and something that could potentially shut them down like this. They're going to have a reason to not want to put the truth out there. And you're right. You think it came from the wet market in China. All right, what is the evidence you have that demonstrates that? Show it to me. It didn't come from a lab because it doesn't have the characteristics that it might. Well, what are the characteristics supposed to be? What are you talking about? That was
a almost quote. You almost had the exact quote by Fauci. That's what he said. That, and when he was asked about that, he went, next question. He didn't even answer that. That's what we were dealing with.
I don't have to explain myself to you.
Exactly.
It's just,
Yeah.
But
that's what it came down to, Johnny. You're right.
If someone who is listening to this doesn't know anything about science and wants to get involved in science, there's some advice here. Ask questions. Because most times NASA explains shit all the time. I don't understand half the shit they're explaining, but they ask themselves questions all the time. I read articles all the time where this NASA scientist was like, wait a minute, I don't think you could do that. So I think you might need to do this. And then the other scientist comes over and goes, well, what the hell are you talking about? Because I'm the director of this and that. But that's how you get technological advances, because questions, and that's this Fauci nonsense and all that is ridiculous. Ask questions.
I think absolutely. And one last important takeaway, I think, is the reason you have to ask questions is not just because the scientists themselves are, potentially suspect and have reasons. Science itself can change like that. And the people studying the science will not always get the right answer. And there's we just had an anniversary of a very famous science screw up. I think it was March 1st, 69 years ago, was the Castle Bravo nuclear test in the South Pacific. Okay. That was a test of a nuclear fusion hydrogen bomb where they estimated the yield would be about 6 megatons when it detonated. Well, they detonated the bomb and it actually came out to 15 megatons.
Whoops.
About 2.5 times more than they thought.
Ooh.
And not only did they understand the yield, they also screwed up the fallout patterns. And because of this, there were numerous ships, observation ships, that had fallout rain down on them. There was the famous Japanese, the whole story of Godzilla came from this test because a Japanese fishing boat was heavily irradiated because they were too close given the yield. And it happened because some of the fuel they needed in the bomb was lithium, and they had lithium-6, which they understood was going to have this certain reaction, and they filled the rest of it with lithium-7 because they thought it was inert. Well, it turns out when you subject it to the conditions of a nuclear blast, lithium-7 is not inert. And it contributed to the reaction. And so and the government has paid out millions of dollars in restitution for the people that got screwed by this. You remember, scientists can screw up even when they're sure about something, and it can have catastrophic consequences. So don't just believe the scientists, make them prove their work.
Yeah.
I think that's the message here.
Absolutely.
All right, gentlemen, we are moving on to topic number 2 here on Two Noobs Talking. Me still in the driver's seat. How about that?
Hell yeah.
And we're going to the next. Oh, Jesus. What is...
Oh my God.
What in the world is that?
That during a pandemic, you should take the lessons from the Centers of Disease Control, whatever the fuck their name is, and properly put a mask on. Not that.
I was waiting for that, Johnny. It was like Bowie's over here.
That's why I tried to throw you off.
Why not just use a pillow? I don't understand.
Please use a pillow. My pillow guy has plenty of them.
Secret Service may be paying John a visit this week. I'm not sure about that. But anyway, so we've got a Breitbart article here.
You can't identify that man.
John Tracy. Address at... So as we got a Breitbart article entitled "Inspectors General Estimate 276 billion with a B of fraud waste in pandemic relief funds, quote, biggest fraud in a generation." At least $276 billion designated as COVID-19 relief funding was lost via fraud and waste, according to cumulative estimates from the Inspectors General of the Labor Department, Treasury Department, and Small Business Administration. Larry Turner, Inspector General for the Labor Department, estimated that $76 billion slated for unemployment insurance was deployed via fraudulent claims. He described the $76 billion fraud assessment as on the low end, given that it did not include an analysis of money deployed via the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program established in 2020. Turner expressed skepticism on recovery of misappropriated funds after Representative Greg Casar considered a net revenue benefit to the government via possible pursuit of fraudsters. You expect that the investments we make in pursuing that kind of fraud, we're going to get more than that amount of money back, Casar stated. Turner replied, "I can't say that. Once fraud goes out the door, it's hard to get it back. John, you are big onto fraud. So
luckily he is not a fraud."
I'm so good at fraud. No, I'm not a fraud. Just as a quick, just remember, if you steal something, the Biden administration asks you that you file it on your taxes that previous year, unless within that year you return it. That's how they're going to try to get it back.
Yeah.
This is from the beginning. Pennsylvania was absolutely the most criminal. When we first started this podcast, we were finding things out that was blowing our minds in the moment. Where these funds were going, they were never getting to where they needed to go. So shockingly, oh my God, the whole country was doing the same thing. They're never going to get this back, and this is the worst part of it. This is why government should not fund this way. This was open door for fraud. They had a pandemic. They were like, "Stay home, don't worry, we have this," and all the money.
2 weeks to slow the spread, right?
Exactly, everything went out the door because it wasn't done properly.
Yeah.
Well, I think anytime, don't you think anytime you have something like this, a charity, I remember there was, when 9/11 happened, there were charities popping up, United Way, all legitimate ones, but then you had the other charities that were stealing money from people because they were playing on emotion and sympathy. Don't you think this is something that happens anytime?
It does, but what the government can do, this is why you don't need the government's help in life. Because they don't do anything right. What they do is they give it to the first people to, I have a business of 200 people. Oh, I have a business of 2,000 people. Checks go right out the door. That fraud is created because they're smart enough to get to it at the beginning. And there's nothing left for regular people. This is how credit card fraud works out. They intercept the card before you even get the card, and then they use it later. They do on the gas pumps. That's what they do is they break in and they stick the little microchip that goes right to their cell phone, so they're getting your number before the credit card company's even getting your number. They're ahead of the game, and that's the federal government is not good at stopping fraud. They never have been. They never will be.
Never will be.
This is why they're in this situation. They're just not good at it.
Well, Sheldon Shoemaker, the SBA's Inspector General, estimated $86 billion had been misappropriated via fraud and waste. They keep mentioning not just fraud, but waste. Which is interesting. He shared his expectation that his future revised estimate would grow, given that the total did not yet include an analysis of the SBA's Paycheck Protection Program launched in 2020. He predicted a future estimate of $100 billion or higher in losses via fraud and waste. Through the SBA's COVID-19 relief measures, including the PPP and the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. It will be more than $100 billion, Shoemaker predicted. Of the final estimate of money lost to fraud and waste via his agency's COVID-19 relief spending. Shoemaker described it as the biggest fraud in a generation. Matt, what do you think about all this?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with Johnny. Governments are very famous of doing wasteful spending and fraud, and this is not a surprise, sadly. I think it's very important, though, when you're talking about that, Steve, I love how you highlighted fraud and waste. They knew, even back then, that this was a wasteful bill to spend on, basically. In that regard, the idea to want to help is admirable to do, obviously. To give to a charitable organization is a worthy thing and a worthwhile goal. When you get the government involved in doing this, though, all for the pat on the back from the voter, that doesn't go too well. Because the idea of trying to get things out quick and fast sometimes doesn't always help in that regard, and especially if you don't take the time to make sure that this particular claim is legitimate. In that regard. So it doesn't surprise me either. It's disappointing more than anything else. It's not sad, but it's more disappointing that they continue to uncover something like this. As for the reform, to be honest with you guys, I would love it if we had, if you give to your synagogues, to your mosques, to your local churches and whatnot, those folks, and they're all, they have like, I think it's called, there's an act that's out there, I believe, where they have to report to a financial institution as well. So it's like, when you give, it's going to the right particular spot. And I think the more of that takes place within the local community, not within the entire federal government, is going to be the resolution to all of this. It might just be that we just need to kind of start thinking that way as opposed to statewide, nationwide, that kind of thing. Because then you kind of fall back into like some sort of like, oh, okay, federal government's got it. No, they don't. They don't have it. They never had it. That kind of a deal. So,
I think that, we all knew the fraud was taking place because, as we've said, it's something that happens every time you have a disaster.
Yeah.
But I kept highlighting the waste because that's a problem I have with the federal government in general, which is we pay all this money in taxes, which I wouldn't mind so much if I knew it was actually being used for something good and not just being blown out the door.
Yeah.
Matt, you're in accounting, Matt. Oh. How does the federal government operate without someone who can oversee this and say, this line item is bullshit and should not be spent?
How long
does that happen?
I was just going to say, how long do you have, Steve? I mean, we could go for a number of hours here. I mean, it is probably the biggest thing in the accounting world, and especially in terms of hours spent. You think about that, it's like, oh, okay. That the time is so important and money is so important. And if you don't have both of those two categories in the right place, you're going to end up wasting all kinds of time and all kinds of money chasing after stuff. And especially when it comes to things like this, and especially when you add fraud on top of it, it's even worse in that regard. So it's a combination of those things. It's really just staying, I think, and we've talked about this in the podcast before, about staying vigilant, making sure that you're on top of your own finances, in that regard. And then electing the right people in place too. That has a factor in this, gentlemen. I mean, that's a lot, to consider as well. If you've got people in there that are just willy-nilly spending, well, I mean, are we not surprised that this is happening? No.
Not surprised. Not surprised at all. The one thing is to look at it, if you're looking at right now, you're looking at inflation. This is one of your prime reasons for it. This is one of your starter. I mean, we were shitty at spending anyway prior to last two administrations, but this is something that because this is money that the government cannot recoup. They're not going to be able to get it back. So this is where, because now they spend more money to make up from their loss of money, their waste of money. This is how the federal government works. Well, they spend more money.
I'm glad you bring that up. How much did it say Biden was going to spend to look into the fraud?
I think it was $100 billion. He wanted to spend $100 billion to.
I think it was 1.6 billion.
1.6 billion. Okay, 1.6 billion. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But that's how government works. Though we're going to use 1.6 to figure out where that 276 billion went. We'll hire a couple more people, but that's also why the Fed can't. They're trying to fluctuate the interest rate, and they're trying to get this inflation down. But it comes from government spending, waste, and other things like this COVID bill. This is where this inflation is coming from. It's not coming from Biden sent money to Ukraine. Magic inflation happened. That's not how it's not helping, but it's definitely not.
Catalyst.
It's not the first domino to fall.
Yeah, and my question is about that 1.6 billion. Where's that money going, and where's it being spent?
Right? He's never going to tell you.
But I want to know, like, why do you need 1.6 billion dollars to investigate $276 billion in fraud?
Because it's a lower number than what we lost. That's all.
It's like less than 5% of the 276 that went out.
and what level of confidence do we have that spending that 1.6 billion is going to net actually anything back?
The next president is probably going to spend $7 billion just to figure out where that 1.6 went. In location. That's what's going to happen.
Well, look. One of my campaign promises is Illinois Smith. I'm going to investigate where everything in money goes in the federal government and cut the stupidity.
Yes.
But that's just me.
And hire Steve because I'm punching everybody.
All right, sailing on the 7 seas of rye, we are moving on to topic 3. We don't have an article for this one, but this caught my eye, and I brought it to your guys' attention. And John, I know, watched live, and Matt's caught up subsequently. But there was a hockey game played between the New York Rangers, and the Washington Capitals this past week. That was aired a little differently than normal. I guess in cooperation with Disney, who owns ESPN. The Rangers Capitals game was broadcast on Disney, the Disney Channel, as well as I think ESPN Plus and maybe a couple other Disney
and Disney Plus also.
Yeah, Disney Plus. It was completely animated.
That's awesome.
And there were some players on both teams who were even replaced with popular characters from the Disney show Big City Greens, which my kids are huge fans of, and which I thought was absolutely hysterical.
That's great.
So this and they did broadcast the game normally on ESPN, but the announcers for the Disney version were also animated, and in between periods they were standing there in all their animated glory giving tutorials to young kids about the great game of hockey. So Matt, I know you kind of caught on to this late. What did you see? What did you like about this?
I was blown away by it, guys. I think we were talking about it in pre-production. I was geeking out over this thing. It was unlike anything I had ever seen before in any sort of sporting event, and that they were able to exactly replicate what was happening on the ice with this cartoon, with this Disney cartoon. It was crazy. I was going like, oh my gosh, this is actually happening. There was no delay. That was the thing that really struck me. There was no delay. There wasn't anything like a second or two delay. It was literally right on time. I geeked out over it. I couldn't get over it. I was just like, this is unbelievable to see this happen. I hope it happens for the Stanley Cup final, to be perfectly honest. I think that would be absolutely hilarious, for that to happen. But yeah, I loved it. I thought it was just a great little addition, and anything to get the young fans to want to watch hockey, I'm all for. Surprising. That it came out of ESPN and Disney, to be perfectly honest.
That's probably the biggest surprise. I know Nickelodeon has done something with the NFL in the last few years where they have, like, you watch the game, but they animate things on the field. So it's like a combination of the actual live action with, slime in the end zone, or one time they had SpongeBob between the goalposts, but this was completely animated. John, I know you watched live like I did. What were your thoughts on this game?
It took a while for my brain to like catch up to what they were doing. Like, I was watching it, enjoying it, and then I started to really think. I'm like, man, this is an achievement. Like, this is, and me and you talked via text message. I wasn't sure if I was live or if I was I wasn't sure, and then you were like, no, this is like exactly live to the game. Then I was like, oh, this is cool. So I shared it with 9-year-old stepson. Dude was glued to it from the end of the second quarter all the way to the end, and was kind of sad when it was over, which was impressive. Like, because normally sports to him he's not sitting there like, oh, I'm going to watch this game. He does his own thing, and that had him glued. And I was like, well, they definitely figured out the young fan, how to get them to watch a hockey game. I thought it was extremely well done. There were so many little funny things that the Whole Foods or whatever it was called. It was
wholesome foods.
Wholesome foods. That was right behind they had the giraffes watching the game. They had the cones. They had different. They had the goalies. I think it was Bill and Grandma from the big city. They were the two goalies, which was weird because Bill's like the size of most of the team. He was just moving. It was very, very bad. I said to my wife after we were done, I was like, they actually got something right. Like, this is a sports league that got together and they act with animation and with they've tried this before. I mean, we had the Fox Puck, complete disaster. It was cool in the beginning, but then it became ridiculous when you could see it through the boards because they couldn't figure that out back then. But anything they've tried, it's just come up this one on every level, from kids to adults. Everybody I talked to was like, man, it was an achievement. And it was just beautiful. It was so well done.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
I think, Matt, you were right with your comment that it's impressive that it was ESPN who is notorious for burying hockey all the time, even though they own the rights to broadcast it now. Yes. They never seem to get anything right.
No.
And yet here they were.
It really just came out of nowhere
for the game of hockey. It did.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's really just the shocking thought of this is like, whoa, ESPN, you're actually doing something genuine for a change. You finally figured it out, that you basically got your younger fans involved. And that's great. I mean, if it's something where it's like, okay, you see it and it's like, oh, there's an actual live game. Maybe I'll check out the live game. That's the hope, that at the end of the day, that the young fan will then want to go and see the live broadcast in that regard. But yeah, I want this like in the Stanley Cup final. I'm serious. I think it would be an absolute tremendous thing for the NHL to consider, to grow the league, to make it better. And bring in the young generation to watch it like that. I think it would be really cool, especially if they could animate the Stanley Cup. Are you kidding me? They kind of run around. That would be really, really hilarious and really cool, but a lot of fun too.
I think one of the complaints about people who aren't hockey fans about why they can't get into it is always like, oh, the rules are complicated. Like the NFL rules aren't complicated.
Yeah.
But
and change every day.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
And one of the things they did on this broadcast was, during a break, they would take time to explain, well, this is what an icing is. And they would animate it and show you, this is what happens. You take the puck, you're behind the center red line, you shoot it down, and it goes past the goal line. And if one of your guys can't get to it first, it's called icing. I thought that was, that's a great thing to do. And, maybe I know this is sort of like it's like the Winter Classic. You do it once a season, but maybe the whole idea of simulcasting a game, one for the typical fan on ESPN, and then one, whether it be animated or simplified or something for, like kids or someone where they can do that kind of stuff, during it. Because I don't need icing explained to me every game. I know what it is.
I don't want to watch the big green game every game.
Right. Exactly.
But what I thought about is, after seeing this, is there was a franchise of video games that my kids used to play. It was the backyard baseball, backyard football. It was an elementary version of the video game to get them into when they were much younger. That's what I thought of when I saw this. If they did that, if it was Nickelodeon and Disney, maybe multiple, if you got together and, like you said, make a kid-friendly version of games, maybe it's the Sunday game or the Saturday game or whenever it would be kid-friendly.
Right.
And it was brilliant that they did it during spring break. Brilliant.
Yeah, right.
Brilliant. Because I'm not like, you got to go to bed because you got to get up. Like, no, watch that. That's awesome. You know what I mean? You can promote. You can't if you got to get up at 5 a.m. You can't, you know what I mean? Turn that thing off. Like, it was cool that it was like, hey, we watched it. We watched the whole thing, and that was worth it. If they could do something like that, would be great.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if either of you know this, but the plan going in, and I believe they followed through because I don't know what happened in the live game, but they were not going to recreate any fighting.
Yeah, that makes sense.
In the game. Now, there were a couple of like post whistle scrums. They did show the players all kind of congregating, and the broadcast. Yeah, they were bumping into each other. Oh, well, because of the graphics, they were like.
Yeah, they were just
each other. Like Bill Green and Net, I'm pretty sure that the crossbar went through his back.
I think
4 or 5 times.
I think so. He was so big.
You know, that's. But they did not, display fighting. So, what's your take on that? Was that a good idea?
Yeah, I think that's a perfectly fine idea, really, Steve. I think, honestly, the NHL, I was kind of listening to the Nasty Knuckles podcast with Settlemeyer and Riley Cote, and they were kind of not necessarily lamenting the loss, but they know it's coming. Like, the fighting is going to eventually dissipate in the NHL. The skill level of the player now is far better than what it was like 10, 20 years ago when with all three of us growing up, where you knew you had a fourth line that would protect the player, protect the top 6. But yeah, I think it's perfectly fine. Anything for a kid to learn. And it's like you see the animation when you see it bumping up against, it's hilarious. It gets the kid engaged and laughing. If you could get that happen, sky's the limit, I think. I think it's great. I think it's really great.
And John, you and I used to referee. What was your, how did you take being represented as a chicken?
It's about normal. I had no issue with it. I like that they appeared out of nowhere too. That was also the line changes awesome. And the chicken referee got poofed out of nowhere. I thought that was pretty cool too.
And then he would drop the puck and disappear.
Yep. We tried so hard to do that when we ref hockey, get the puck in and get the hell out of the way.
I learned very early on with refereeing 8-year-olds, you should wear a cup as a referee.
Yes,
it's very important.
Oh no, me and Steve have war stories from young kids swinging sticks and just hitting us.
Oh man,
hurts.
Yeah,
I bet.
Yeah, it does. I bet. And now we get to the fourth topic, which sadly means that I have to move over here, which is fine.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
Because we have it's March Madness. What's your problem?
What the hell? I'm still on the right side. John's in the middle.
Yeah, screw you.
Yeah.
Okay.
we have March Madness, and like we did last year for March Madness, we go crazy and do weird, silly tournaments. And John had a brainchild that leaked out onto the page. It's almost time for the baseball season to start. Matt's got his Phillies, whatever the hell that is, on. Sweatshirt. There you go. He's got his Phillies sweatshirt on. We're ready for Phillies baseball to start. And John was like, baseball movies are fun. Let's rank some baseball movies and put them in a tournament, pit them against each other, and let them fight to the death.
Yes.
So
that's exactly how I said it, by the way. And they were like, sold.
Let's do it.
So John, I turn it over to you. My work here is done.
All right. Well, except for you've got to vote on these. So let's start.
Damn it.
Let's start this tournament. So Matt found this website, and we took a bunch of crappy movies and threw them to the side and picked our 16 that we liked. So if you don't like these, I don't care. These were the ones that we've seen that we liked.
That's the important part. Yeah.
If we didn't see it, it didn't make the list. If it was stupid, it didn't make the list. So if you've got a stupid movie that you like.
None of us have watched Damn Yankees, so screw off.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yep. And it's never going to make the list because damn Yankees. So let's start with our list.
All right.
So we have Major League.
Okay.
A League of Their Own.
Mm-hmm.
Bull
No
Durham.
particular order, right?
No particular order.
Yeah.
They're all going to be picked out of a hat. Moneyball. one of my personal favorites.
Good movie. Yeah.
Field of Dreams,
Great
The
movie.
Natural,
Yep.
Bad News Bears,
Man.
Sandlot,
Wow.
another one of my favorite baseball movies, Cobb. What a piece of trash, and Tommy Lee Jones played a great character.
Yeah.
Being a piece of trash, it was great.
I mean, it kind of fits, really,
yes,
right?
absolutely, absolutely. Very, very good movie that I don't suggest you allow your children to watch. 42. That is a Rookie of the
Why
Year.
that would be.
Yeah. It was during a time period of people that we wouldn't associate with.
Right.
Rookie of the Year. I'm blaming Steve for this one, but he's absolutely right. Major League 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's right.
Mr. 3000.
Okay.
That's another good.
The
Bernie
Babe.
Mac.
The
Yeah.
story of Babe Ruth.
Okay.
The Rookie.
There you go.
Based on
And-
a true story.
Yes, based on a true story. And finally, The Angels in the Outfield. Go Tony Denver.
We don't get Rob Schneider and the Benchwarmers in there. What's up?
No, didn't make it.
And
I think
who's the guy?
They lost in the play-in tournament, Steve.
Who's the football player? Bill Romanowski. Doesn't have we can't have Bill Romanowski complaining that his Miata windshield just got busted.
Didn't he spit on somebody? He's out.
Yes, yes, he did.
Yeah.
Yes, he did.
Yes,
So
he
now I will grab my trusty Sixers hat. This makes all
Let's
decisions
do it.
for Two Noobs.
We trust that
Oh.
process.
Yes, we're going to
Love
open
it.
this up. And Steve, since you're on the left, you will go first. So let's see what teams. You are getting Sandlot.
Ooh.
Oh, right. I like Sandlot. That was a good. movie.
Okay.
Is facing Major League. Oh, that's a tough
Oh,
one. Right off the bat, that
Oh.
is a tough one.
You're a dick. Oh God. Oh, how can you do that? Oh,
That's
that
probably like
is-
an 8-9 or 7-10
Yeah.
matchup. That's brutal.
Yeah, that is. I'm gonna be mad at
no,
you
that's
for
not.
whoever you pick.
Oh, well,
Talking quality, but yeah, I hear
look,
you. That's rough.
I gotta go Major League.
There
Okay.
you go.
I mean,
Yeah.
damn, man, that's like putting Slapshot and Miracle against
Yeah.
each other in the first round.
Oh, don't worry, we will eventually.
All
So
right, John.
let's get
What do you-
Matt.
Should
going
have sacrificed a live chicken.
here.
what do we got going on?
Sure. Okay, we got one of my favorite movies, Cobb.
Okay.
Okay.
Up
Cobb.
against.
I'm glad you got that because I haven't seen it.
Field of Dreams.
Oh,
Ooh.
wow. This is hard. But growing up when that came out, it was in the early 90s, right?
Yeah.
I think that was right.
Yeah, it
I
was.
think it was
somewhere-
actually 89.
Oh my gosh.
It was.
Wow, it goes back that
88,
far.
89. Yeah, I think it does go.
Yeah. I fell in love with that movie, and it's one of my all-time favorites. Sorry, Johnny. Field of Dreams. We'll move
Awesome.
on there, pal.
Cobb.
Do you watch when they do the game in the cornfield in the Major League?
I did actually, yeah. I thought that was the coolest thing too,
Yeah.
that they did that. With the they built it outside and
Someone
stuff like that. It was
Fell
great.
out.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, we got
Everything's
got
falling
corruption.
down.
We got corruption here.
we got corruption.
Corruption in the process.
Is not it's not as bad as Arizona. But
What else you got, Johnny?
get in here, Steve. We got the Rookie
Oh.
Okay.
is going to
Okay.
be taking on Angels in the Outfield.
Ooh. So the rookie, where Dennis Quaid, who's like 58, plays a 35-year-old teacher who
Yes.
breaks into the major leagues finally with the Tampa Bay Devil Rays.
Which I had no idea what you guys were talking about until you explained it. And I was like, oh, I've seen that movie. The Rookie.
There
I've
you
never,
go.
never heard of that.
I'm going to go Angels in the Outfield for no other reason than Christopher Lloyd is in that movie.
Yes.
Oh, hell yeah.
and he's an all timer. So
Love it. Yeah,
All
I
right.
love that.
and who was John? Who did you say was in that movie that shocked me?
Oh, I don't even remember.
Oh, it was Joseph Gordon-Levitt, right?
Joseph Gordon-Levitt,
Yes,
and I
yeah.
said that
Yeah.
in pre-production. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
You
that's
were
right.
like, what?
Yeah, it was Matt, yeah.
Yeah,
you were-
that I
that
don't.
was a
I remember.
shocker.
I remember Tony Danza and I remember Christopher Lloyd, and that's about
Yeah.
it.
A
That's
young
about.
Jordan Gordon-Levitt. Yeah.
That's hilarious. All right, let's go.
Unbelievable.
Okay, so we're on to Matt for Game 4 of this wonderful tournament. Major
do it.
League 2. Steve's
Oh,
big
man.
choice.
You
Okay.
have no marbles. No marbles.
Against
Bad News Bears. Ooh, that's another tough one.
Which year Bad News Bears are we talking about here?
The old one.
One with
the,
Walter. So
yeah,
Walter.
yeah,
Matthau.
Walter Matthau. Yep, yep.
Okay.
No remakes here. No.
Good.
If you don't
Yeah,
like Walter
wow.
Matthau, you can also get out.
yeah, well,
tremendous
okay,
actor.
make my decision that much harder, Johnny. You know, in that regard. You know, I'd like Major League 2, but I can't go wrong with Bad News Bears. I mean, that was and especially you guys are right with Walter Matthau in that movie. Are you kidding me? B&B, baby.
Just
Sorry, Steve.
Just the abuse
Yeah.
of the children that Walter was awesome. That dude
All right,
would
so,
not coach
Does
Little
not
League.
condone.
Yeah, that dude would not coach Little League nowadays at all.
Exactly.
So we have in the same episode, John has intimated that the sitting president of the United States should smother himself with a pillow and condone child abuse in a film.
No, not just a pillow. He needed to get it from the My
Oh,
Pillow.
a
guy.
my pillow, right?
There you go.
Okay.
There you go. There you go.
Spend the $87 for your pillow.
Matt, you and I may be alone next week. Just saying.
Gonna write that down.
All right, so those just so we're familiar with the tournament, those are now ranked 1 through 4, and now we're going to do the next. Who's gonna face
the next?
Who's gonna face
okay.
those? The next 4.
Okay.
So Steve, we've got one here. It is Bull Durham
Okay.
versus the Natural, which is good. It's in around the same time.
Yeah.
What is the better movie of that era? That's the question.
Yeah.
Now, I have not watched either of these in full. So full disclosure there.
Okay.
I would
And
agree with that. I don't think I've seen either of them complete from beginning to end.
The
Interesting.
only part of the Natural I've seen is when he hits the home run into the lights, which is replayed ad nauseum everywhere
All the time.
and
yeah.
and repeated in cartoons and such.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now remind me who Tim Robbins was in Bull Durham, right?
I believe you're right.
I believe so, yeah.
Looking at
And
up,
who
yep.
was the other star in that one?
Bull Durham.
Was Kevin Costner?
Kevin
the other one?
Costner was in it. Susan
Yep.
Sarandon. Yep.
Yep.
Robert Wool was in it. Yep.
Oh, Robert
Robbins.
Wool was in it. Yeah. All right. Well,
Yeah.
Robert Wool was in it, so they get to advance.
Yes.
Oh, there you go.
Bull Durham goes on because Robert Wool was in it.
There you go.
I don't eat light. Or no, he does eat light. Yeah, I
He
eat
does
light.
eat light.
I do. I eat light.
Yeah.
All right.
Don't get personal.
So game 6 here.
Okay.
We have The Babe.
Oh boy. Okay. Against.
Little left, so it's hard to pick them out now if that happens. The Rookie of the Year,
Oh man.
Oh, Rookie of the Year. I remember that.
which I've seen that movie probably 125 million times.
Yeah.
He struck out Barry Bonds in that movie.
Yes, he
He
did.
and for
Yes, he
that
did.
reason, Rookie of the Year.
Nice. Hit the bricks, babe.
Oh, that's a shame. That's a shame. The Babe was a good movie.
Yeah.
It was. It was
Although
a really good movie.
the comical thing I will mention about that was there's a part where John Goodman plays Babe Ruth and he tells I think it's an umpire to shove something up his ass, and he
Yes.
mouths ass very clearly. with his
Nice.
mouth.
Nice.
And on the cable version, they of course dub over, shove it up his nose. But to see the word nose when his mouth is clearly going was a little weird.
It's a little off. Yeah.
A little off.
That's too funny. All right, Johnny, we're almost done.
Right.
By my count, right?
Steve, we've got 42.
Okay.
And they've all trapped themselves in the upper room. There we go. We've released them.
There we go.
League of Their Own.
Both, I think, interesting historical significance.
Yes, yes,
no doubt.
But A League of Their Own is just so damn funny.
Yeah.
I love that movie.
Yeah.
I mean, Tom Hanks as Jimmy Dugan was one of the funniest things ever in a sports movie.
There's no crying in baseball.
There were so many good actors in that movie, male and female, across the board.
Yeah.
So many. That was so many stars.
Gina Davis.
Yes.
Madonna, Lori Petty was in
Lori
it. John
Petty,
Lovitz was there.
Yep.
Bill Pullman.
Oh, John Lovitz. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. My God.
Oh, that's right. Bill Pullman was in that. I forgot about that.
Dude, remember one of my favorite scenes in the movie is the dude that's making fun of the girls and he's jumping up. He jumps up on the thing and he's like, and she throws a rifle and hits him with a baseball. Like that's
oh, that's funny.
Yeah. One of my favorite parts is when Tom Hanks signs the ball for the kid. He's like, wow, avoid the clap, Jimmy Dugan. But I will say this. Having younger siblings, if I were Gina Davis, it would have took every fiber of my being not to rear back and punch Kit Keller in the face. Oh my God.
Yeah,
taking one for the team, taking one for the family, giving her the no way.
Yeah.
Would have broke her leg right at the plate. No joke.
I would have hit her in the face with the mitt and ball as she came across home.
Exactly. Just concussion city. That's what that would have been.
Exactly.
Especially because she was such a dumbass running through the sign too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Gina Davis, you are You're a better sportman than me and Steve. So last one. Mr. 3000 takes on
Mr. 3000
Moneyball.
Oh. Okay. Well, Johnny, I think I'm with you. I mean, it's close, but I would probably put Moneyball ahead of 3000. It's close. I mean, I love Bernie Mac. I just think Moneyball was just a great movie from start to finish.
Moneyball was for our generation, the GM generation of that we cared about the front office and stuff. It was a good movie. It was a well-made movie to explain what had been in baseball for so long. The Moneyball concept is crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
Just to give Mr. 3000 its props real quick, a shout out to the recently deceased Paul Sorvino, who played the manager of the Brewers, and was like, he never said a word through the whole movie until the very end when he goes out to argue with the umpire on the call to save Bernie Mac from bad call.
Love it.
That was a performance. It was fantastic.
That's awesome. Love it.
All right, second round.
All right, so we're going to go backwards. We'll start with game 4 here and go for Steve. Bad News Bears versus Moneyball. Who's moving on to the semifinals?
I catch Moneyball every once in a while on the TV.
Mm-hmm.
And there are parts that I enjoy thoroughly, like when Brad Pitt's in the office, like trading dudes left and right just because, and he's like munching popcorn. He's telling Suzanne to get Ed Wade on the phone. But I thought the stuff with his daughter, I thought that kind of slowed it down.
I would agree. I would agree.
Was kind of a drag on it, and there were parts like he would be in his car and all these scenes, and I was like, that's boring to me.
Yeah.
But I guess I do have to move it on because it was a pretty well done movie, and I think it had a lot of interesting things. You learned a lot about the business of baseball from it.
Nice.
And as much as I hate the analytics, it was interesting.
Yeah. So Moneyball.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah,
right.
Moneyball's going forward.
Moneyball it is. Okay. All right.
So, Matt,
Johnny?
we're going Major League versus Bull Durham.
Oh, wow. Major League against Bull Durham.
And that's for who faces Moneyball to get to the championship.
To the championship. I think I gotta go Major League.
You have to.
I think it's just the hilarity, the comedy. And I think, it was such an iconic movie back then, and it was hilarious. It was like the Cleveland
Bob Uecker.
Yeah, it was the Cleveland Indians that were in it. And it was like back then they were a joke. They were an absolute joke of a franchise. And, for them to make it all the way to the pennant, beating the New York Yankees and come on. So, yeah, I would go Major League on that.
Awesome.
Leads the league in most offensive categories, including nose hair.
Yes. All right. So, Steve, we've got Angels in the outfield versus a League of Their Own.
Oh, wow.
That's a no-brainer. It's a League of Their Own.
League of Their Own.
Oh, there you go.
Angels in the Outfield is a nice movie to show your kids, but a League of Their Own is
absolutely.
a total level above it.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, to round out our semifinals, we have Field of Dreams versus Rookie of the Year.
Oh gosh, Field of Dreams. Come on.
There you go.
For me, yeah, absolutely. I mean, still one of my favorite ones all time in that regard. So yeah,
I will say, I always wanted my arm to make that sound when I would throw a pitch.
Yeah.
I wish something like that would have happened to me when I was a kid. I could go from 9 to a major league starting pitcher.
Yeah, right.
Why not?
And he only threw. I mean, he threw what, 100?
Yeah,
something. Like
nowadays
it wasn't like.
Nowadays, that's a general reliever out of the 7th inning.
Right? Yeah.
Philly's got like 7 of those guys.
Yeah, exactly.
They do.
Exactly right. Oh, man.
All right,
Final Four.
Final Four, yeah.
We're at the Final Four.
Let's finish this off. Steve, we're going to go League of Their Own versus Field of Dreams.
Oh, wow.
I apologize to Matt in advance, but a League of Their Own, I take it over Field of Dreams, yeah.
I couldn't disagree with you, honestly.
You're gonna lose, Evelyn, I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to kill your son.
And it feels like Field of Dreams goes like for 3 hours. I mean, it is a long movie, and it's like, okay, when are we getting to the ending? Come on, it's like they gotta come together. At some point and play in the Iowa cornfield. Come on.
How many more of these guys are going to come out of the corn? God.
Do you know how genius that scene was that you talked about, Steve? Is that you're going to lose? That they ran that all the way back to the end of the movie, and his mom had passed away, and he was there at the final. Dude, that was such good writing. To bring back such a great scene and put it in a different perspective. It was awesome. That movie was so well written.
Love it.
All right, Matt, we have Moneyball versus Major League.
You know what? I think it's going to have to be Major League. Moneyball is a great movie. Major League is a little bit better. Yeah, I think and it's going to be a showdown in that championship.
I just remembered my favorite line from that movie.
Go for it.
Go ahead.
Say it.
when it calls up Lou Brown when he's at the tire dealership and says, Lou, how would you like to manage the Cleveland Indians? Oh, gee, I don't know.
Love it.
All right,
Love it.
so we're gonna put the vote into the group text right now, and it's gonna be
okay.
it's I will be the deciding vote if it's a tie, or I won't say a word on what I think if it's not a tie.
This is really hard. I'm just going to say that.
I agree. I agree.
This is really difficult.
I love one, but I really just hands down
adore the other.
The other is just so much higher than this one the other one. So
yeah. All right.
I knew this was going to be the final two too.
I know. Yeah.
And it doesn't make it any easier.
No. No.
All right, Johnny. I just sent my vote.
We got one.
All right.
We got one. All right, Matt
I sent mine to both of you.
But that's fine.
That's okay.
Fine. That's fine. I will announce it as soon as I know.
If it goes through.
waiting. There we go. Okay, so I don't even need to vote. The winner is Major League.
Wow,
nice.
I would have voted for a League of Their Own if
I had a feeling
another vote came through. So Major League does win. But I mean, 1A. I mean, I have no.
I totally agree.
No problem.
Perfectly fine.
Yes.
Movie.
Yes.
You know, perfectly fine with that.
I think the tiebreaker for me was just I like to laugh, and Major League just makes you laugh a little bit more.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that.
No, it's great. It's good stuff.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. Real quick before you guys say what you need to say, I just wanted to throw out twonoobstalking.wordpress.com. You can see our episode if you're watching on whatever you're listening. You can go to our website. It gives you audio, video, gives you a little bio. You're gonna have all the show notes of what we talked about today and a link to YouTube videos to show you the big green city. If you didn't see it, it'll be underneath our YouTube channel. So just check that out. Again, it's twonoobstalking.wordpress.com.
Sounds good.
All right, that wraps up episode 129. I remembered. Oh, see that? Yeah, so it is on to episode 130 next week. Make sure you like and subscribe.
Yes.
If you don't, you're stealing.
Yes. Thank you to the people that are subscribing. We love it.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Yeah.
Do either of you have anything to say for yourselves before we get out of here?
No.
I take your
nothing.
There's no excuse for me. Moving on.
That's true. There is no excuse for John Tracy.
There is no excuse for John Tracy. We'll see if he's back next week in episode 130. We'll see you later, everyone. Take care.
Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Two Noobs Talking. Not only can you listen to our entire catalog here on YouTube, but you can also download us on your favorite podcast listening platforms, such as Apple, Google, and Samsung podcasts, along with iHeartRadio and others. Have a great week, and we look forward to delivering another episode of Two Noobs Talking. Take care.